Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bowling University studio from the International Bowling Campus here in Arlington, Texas. This is the Profit Break. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, we're glad you're here. Give us 15 minutes, and you're going to be well on your way to improving not only yourself, but your profitability. Now, so many small business owners today are busy working in their business that they spend little or no time working on their business. And folks, being busy is not the same as being profitable. But today's guest is here to help you build your brand, strengthen your team, increase your profits. Mr. Donald Burns is the restaurant coach, named to the list of definitive restaurant experts and one of 23 hospitality experts to follow on Twitter. He's a sought-after advisor in the areas of leadership, branding, social media, culture, operations, and productivity, and peak performance. Add to all that, he's the best-selling author of not one, but 3 books, Your Restaurant Sucks, Your Restaurant Still Sucks, and his newest book, Your Restaurant Culture Sucks. So, Donald, welcome to the Profit Break. Pleasure to meet you. Look forward to having you with us.
Hey, you got to say suck quite a few times, right?
I did. Thank you, Donald. And look, as a male whose wife often questions my maturity level, to be able to say sucks in a professional manner, I want to thank you for that.
You know, I do what I can, Bart, to help out the little people and help out people like you and I that don't really get to use the word suck every day in our language. And so I'm doing this for the person that is repressed and not able to say the word sucks a lot. So I wrote 3 books. The last one, Your Restaurant Culture Sucks, is the last in the Your Restaurant kind of trilogy, Your Sucks trilogy. And now it's time to come up with some better words, I guess. It's 2023. I got to come up with some better stuff than saying everything sucks. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be on the show today. I'm excited about the expo coming up in Orlando. It's going to be amazing. I am so looking forward to it. I can't tell you how much. It's going to be a great stuff.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to having you. And so let's dig in a little bit today, give a little sampling of what folks can expect. Let's start at the top. You are the restaurant coach there. So if we had to start at 30,000 feet and say, what's the fastest way to grow food sales in our facilities, what could you share with us today?
So if someone contacted me and said, Donald, man, I'm just really struggling on sales. What's the fastest way to grow sales? I would tell them right off the bat, the fastest way to grow your sales is to work on what's called guest check average. Guest check average is the fastest way to improve your sales overnight because it's what we look at. There's certain KPIs or key performance indicators I like to look at. Guest check average is one of my favorite ones because it's what's known as a multiplicative KPI in that it impacts so many different elements of our performance and our profitability. So guest check average is basically getting people to spend a little bit more. If you look at how to increase sales overall, there's only 4 ways to increase sales. 1, I can get new people to come to my place. 2, I can get people to come to my place to come back more often. And number 3, get people to come to my restaurant to spend more money. And 4, I could increase prices if I had to. I would say 4 is like the last one. I like number 3. Work with my team to get them to upsell more. That could be easy as just selling desserts. Most restaurants, the dessert category is super underutilized. And it doesn't matter what kind of restaurant you have, fine dining, fast casual, bowling alley, we could always take more advantage of selling more desserts. The typical restaurant only sells maybe 1% to 2% dessert sales, where you should be shooting for around 6%. That's low-hanging fruit. Just offering desserts, talking about desserts, things like that. Getting that extra add-on when you're selling a burger, adding on the bacon, adding on some extra stuff, getting fries on the side, but maybe asking for maybe you want the fries smothered. There's so many great ways to increase guest check average, and the beautiful thing is that all you have to do is just really work with your team on a daily basis during your pre-shift, and just talk about some easy-to-do tools and techniques and stuff like that you could actually offer to upsell and increase the guest check average.
Good. Great tips, Donald. So, that's focusing on check average, raising those revenues. Let's talk a little bit about profits in this inflationary environment with wages and costs. How can we make sure that all those revenue gains you're going to help us get don't just slip through and we can get them to the bottom line?
Well, the easiest way to gain profitability is, number 1, you should have everything on your menu costed out. I am shocked. I'll go to, I speak all around the world, and every time I go speak on stage, I'll ask the audience, I'll say, raise your hand if you have everything on your menu costed out down to the penny. And I'm shocked and appalled that usually around 2% actually have their menu costed out. There's a huge thing in food costing there's a discrepancy between what's known as theoretical and actual food cost. Now, someone will call me once a month and say, hey, Donald, my food cost is 30%. Is that good? And I'll say, I don't know. And they'll say, hey, aren't you the restaurant coach? Don't you know? I say, well, let me ask you a question before I answer that. And they'll say, okay. I'll say, what's your theoretical food cost? And they say, I don't know. And I say, that's the problem. So your theoretical food cost, which is perfect world, that's costing out everything on my menu down to the penny. That's theoretical. If my theoretical food cost is 28, then 30% food cost is pretty good. But if your theoretical food cost is 20%, now we got some work to do. And the average restaurant in the United States has a gap between theoretical and actual food costs of 9%. I easily can help someone find 5% profit right away just by understanding their theoretical and actual food cost and then working on a plan to close that gap between the two. Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, that is powerful, Don. So I want to reiterate and have our viewers, because in our industry, typically, we are bowling with other entertainment options. Food is getting to be more and more important part of that process. But sometimes the lens we look through, we think we're the only ones that aren't pricing out. I was fascinated that you just said 2% of attendees in all around the world and all the food service areas you speak to aren't costing those products out. I find that fascinating, and it gives me comfort that we're not alone. It's not a bowling problem. It is in fact a food service problem. It
is a food service problem. What's that old saying that ignorance is bliss? It's not. It's just ignorance. It's not bliss.
So let's jump over to menu design. Can you give us a quick tip on maybe menu design and going forward in this environment, what to do with those?
So the number one thing I look at is psychology, and there's a lot of great tools in psychology. There was a study at Cornell University that said, if you take the dollar signs off your menu, because we have this association with symbols and numbers. And the dollar sign itself is called semantic salience. And if I take the dollar signs off my menu, you could actually get an increase in sales up to 8 to 9% overnight just by taking the dollar sign off, because we don't associate pain with that. So the first thing I would say, low-hanging fruit, easiest thing you can do, take the dollar signs off your menu, and you can actually see an increase in sales overnight just in menu design.
Yeah, that is gold. I love that in that. So I want to jump to the books there. We kind of had some fun with the titles there, but I got to tell you, in all seriousness, there's some incredible content in here. I mean, I'm working on the one right now. Your Restaurant Culture Sucks, your latest one. I'm taking it with me on my next trip to finish it there. These are, we joke about sucks, but these are a deep, deep read. It's got some great tips and some great strategies in there. Can you maybe just, I know you've got the trilogy, give us a little tip or insight from each one maybe that sticks out in your mind as you were writing these?
Yeah, so, each book has a lot of content, and it really gets down to the heart of the matter. All the books really focus in on what the real problem is with restaurants, and that's usually the owner and the owner's mindset. So the books are all really, probably 80% is really about mindset and habits, and 20% is a little bit about systems and strategy. I mean, you get some really good stuff that you can actually apply, but a lot of it's just kind of like facing the mirror and understanding that, this restaurant's the way it is because of me. In fact, that's where the title of my first book came from. I was working with a client, and he was just ranting and raving about how bad his cooks sucked, how bad his bartender sucked, his server sucked, his guests sucked, his location sucked, his market sucks. And he was just ranting and raving. And I was just sitting there very calm and cool. And when he got done, I just casually said, I don't remember. I just know it kind of just came out. I said, if your restaurant sucks, it's because you suck running it. And he was a big guy. And I thought he was going to come up over the table, and I thought he was going to punch me in the face. He got up about halfway over the table. He got this look on his face. He sat back down in his chair. He took out a deep breath, and he says, you're right. This is all my fault. And I said, okay, let's get to work. And then we worked really hard the next year, and he got to the point where he was actually running his restaurants remotely from Miami, because that was his goal, and then doing everything like that. So in the books, there are tons of little gold nuggets that are going to help you. In my first book, every book, so let me say this. Each book is like a child. We all have, and I know you say you don't have a favorite child, but we all have a favorite child. So, and each child has a certain kind of memory to you. My first book, Your Restaurant Sucks, my favorite chapter in there is the 12 BS lies that we tell ourselves. Because that's going to really make you kind of look in the mirror and say, what are these things I'm talking about, and what are these things I'm saying to myself that, you know what, I bought my own BS on this, and I need to stop it. In my second book, Your Restaurant Still Sucks, my favorite chapter in there is the 7 rules for a kick-ass restaurant, because that's going to give you like the groundwork of my 7 kind of bold principles that are going to really help you set yourself up for success. And in my last book, my latest book, Your Restaurant Culture Sucks, I have the 19 fatal mistakes restaurant owners make. If you go through that list of the 19 fatal mistakes and use it almost like a checklist and say, am I doing this? Am I doing this? And if you can cross them off and say, I'm good, then you're going to be gold.
Yeah. Well, Donald, you helped me, because today we not only got to say sucks, we got to say ass. So we worked both those into a conversation. But there is a lot of meat in there. And I would tell folks, all 3 of your books are available on Amazon, online. They're great reads. Like I said, I'm working on the last one right now. Don't spoil it for me.
They're also available on Audible, too.
Okay.
If you like the audio version too, so there's also available in audio.
Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. So hey, you mentioned, I mean, sometimes we look in the mirror and the enemy is us, right? And we have to identify that's where it lies there. But what role does training play as you walk through this? What's the role of training, and in this environment, how can we do better?
There's 4 things I tell my clients they have to do every single day. And it's not optional. It's like mandatory. I call it the daily 4. They have to do these every day. Number 1, it should always be marketing. Because if you always want to be top of mind, you should always be marketing your brand. Number 2, you should always be recruiting. You should always be out actively looking for top talent. Number 3, you should always be training. And then number 4, you should always be learning. Training is so critical, because we never train people to the level that they should be. I have a saying, and you'll read it in all of my books, and all my clients know this by heart. We never train somebody until they get it right. We train them till they can't get it wrong. I've seen this before. Like you're looking for a line cook. You need someone to work the line. So you put out the job ad. You get some interviews. This guy's got 4 years experience, and you hire him, and he gets in the kitchen, and he's just a total mess. I mean, just sloppy, dirty, cross-contaminated, bad habits all over the place. Just because they have 4 years experience doesn't mean they have 4 years of good experience. So when I'm setting up a training program, I have to have a training program so thorough, so comprehensive, that it basically trains out all the bad habits. And the model that I always recommend is we follow a 70-20-10 methodology for training. 70% is hands-on. That's what we call a training culture. That's where you do basically the typical shadow part. 20% is active feedback. So at the end of the day, you're actively sitting down. They have a journal. They're talking. They're writing stuff down. They're actively having active coaching about how they can improve, where they got stuck, what are some of the things they need to work on. And then 10% should be online reinforcement. I'm a huge believer in online videos, because the majority of the Gen Z and some of the younger millennials, they love to learn is by video, by repetition. They love YouTube. They consume YouTube like crazy. So you should video everything in your restaurant that's trainable. You should have a video on it, and you should make it either a Google Classroom, which is free, or you could create a private YouTube channel for your team to watch videos on. And that's going to reinforce your standards, your expectations, and how you want things done. But you can never, ever train enough.
Yeah, look, you're preaching to the choir. I love that. You can never train enough. So before we let you get away today, you shared with us some great tips already. I know you're going to unpack a whole lot more when you're with us in Orlando there. You mentioned KPIs, these key performance indicators, for the food service areas, because in our bowling space and our entertainment space, we've got some KPIs. But for the food service space, what are some of your favorites? What are some key ones that we should be focusing on until we see you?
The big ones I look at are prime cost. Of course, prime cost is your food cost and labor cost. I also love to look at guest check average. Another key one I look at that people forget to look at is discounts and comps. Because if you're not tracking your discounts and comps, that could be like that could be some internal bleeding, that you're bleeding out a lot of your stuff. And I see this often, that, restaurants like, my sales are really good, but my profitability is really low. And then we get to dig into their KPIs, and their discounts and comps are really high. There should be, basically, there's quite a few different categories for discounts and comps. And you want to make sure that you're not over 4% on your discounts and comps. You got to be under 4% or under for your discounts and comps. And this is where we go sideways, is that we let people just comp everything. If it's not right, just comp it, give them everything back. But we ought to understand that comping stuff is not fixing the problem. It's just basically just putting a Band-Aid on it. So every time I'm comping something, I want to ask, why do we comp it? And what can we do to train better or improve the processes so we can eliminate those comps in the future? But that's one of those kind of internal ones. And another one that we don't even think about, too, is employee turnover, which is another bleed out one that we don't understand, that it costs us so much to replace somebody, especially in today's market where the labor market's pretty tight. You can't afford to lose anybody, and you can't afford to keep C players on, because you need more C players than it is to take an A player.
Well, thank you, Donald. Some incredible tips just today. I know you're going to unpack a whole lot more when you're with us in Orlando. Thank you for being with us, and we look forward to seeing you at Bowl Expo.
I can't wait to be there. It's going to be awesome.
Awesome. Well, hey, I almost forgot there, Donald. I apologize. You've got one special thing you want to share with us if the folks are with you there. And tell us a little bit about your generous offer.
So everyone who attends the session at Bowl Expo, what we're going to do is we're going to put your name into a raffle, and then I'm going to give you a one-on-one private coaching session with me personally. So we can actually sit down. We're going to talk about where your restaurant is now, where do you want to be in 90 days, and I will give you a step-by-step, 3-step plan that you can implement, that you can take away from the expo with you, and it's going to be an awesome thing. So we're going to give away one-on-one session with me. It's going to be a great time, but of course, you got to be at the session.
Yeah, awesome. And thank you for the generosity in doing that there. I was so excited writing some of the tips and numbers and marks down. I almost forgot to mention it, so my apologies there.
Oh, of course. Hey, it's all good.
Awesome. Well, hey, folks, imagine having more money, more time, and less stress. It's all possible with the help of the Restaurant Coach. If you're ready for your restaurant to not suck, then don't miss Donald's Bowl Expo session this June in Orlando. You're not going to want to miss it, including his free giveaway. If you're ready to start improving your profitability, you can reach us anytime at education@bpa.com. So as we wrap up another edition of The Profit Break, remember, when you're focused on growing people, people will grow your business. This episode, as well as all our previous Profit Break episodes, are available 24/7 for you, your team, and everybody at bowlinguniversity.net. Plus, we have new episodes every month. Mark your calendar, watch your email. Join us on Facebook to hear about all the latest episodes. Until then, I'm Bart Berger, and remember, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. We'll see you next time.